Life Audio.
Today on Talk About That, John thinks he worries better than you do and finds a magical hat in the strangest place. Meanwhile, I have an idea how to bring folks back to the movie theater and tell you how the U.S. almost got a pinstriped flag. Plus, a conversation about gratitude and actively looking for the good in the world as an antidote to anxiety. Today's episode is not sponsored by cell phone flashlights. If you're over 40, yours is probably on and you don't even know it. But first, a word from our actual sponsor.
Johnny, it's a new year, but the same quality podcast to talk about that. We're bringing it back for another year. Let's run it back, bro.
You just want to, so you're saying we're just going to coast?
Yeah, let's do the same thing over and over again.
That needs to be, nobody's ever done that. Nobody's ever said like, hey, new year, hey, same you.
Hey, we're doing pretty good.
Yeah. I think Planet Fitness would say that to me because I've not canceled.
Uh-huh.
So I'm still paying my fat tax or whatever because it's auto draft. And I don't have the guts to cancel it because it feels like you're giving up on your life.
And they don't have to clean off another bench. You know
That's
what
right.
I'm
They
saying?
don't have to do anything except for just like, hey, this guy.
It'd be funny if, like, behind the scenes, they're all hoping people just pay.
Well, that's all they do.
Don't actually come.
Can you imagine if everybody that had a gym membership came at once?
Ugh.
It would be a fire marshal issue.
Guys, can you imagine everybody who had a church membership came at once? Come on now.
Hey, won't that?
Won't it, though? Guys, that's our episode.
And we'll see you Sunday morning.
You know my rule of church membership.
What's that?
I never preach about it.
Yeah.
You know why?
Why?
Everyone needs to hear it is not there.
Yeah.
Everyone who's there.
I thought you were going to say, we call it covenant. We don't call it membership. We call it...
No, I'm just saying, like, why would you... I don't talk about...
We call it a blood oath.
I talk about membership.
I
don't talk about, like attendance.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not here, wouldn't be that.
That's kind of true of church. Yeah, like the pastors that get up and yell at everybody for not being whatever, faithful enough or being consumer mindset. It's like the people who need to hear that are not there.
Here.
And so what are you doing? You're just beating the people down that got up and came in.
Yeah. I was having breakfast with a mutual friend this morning, and he was talking about a preacher he heard, and he was talking about how he stops and asks himself questions in the middle of the message.
And he goes, why?
It was cracking me up so much.
That's the main thing you can do as a preacher. That's really what differentiates a preacher from a TED Talk is you ask a question, then you go, why? Why do I do that?
Right.
And then you say,
you might be
answer
saying,
yourself.
Well, Brother John, but why would you even, like you go into this, like,
You might say to me.
But this guy was rebuking the proverbial answer.
Oh, right. So like he sets up his own straw man in the sermon.
Right. And then rebuke the people.
Yeah.
As if they asked it, but he's the one who asked
it.
And
they're in the audience like, I can't believe we said that. Like, wait a minute, we didn't say it.
We were laughing so hard.
That is a big one. And that's just a style. And you might even say that it comes from the Pauline epistles. Because Paul wrote a lot that way. He would write knowing like, I have to presuppose some of these questions that are going to be coming at me.
Yeah.
So I got to answer them in advance.
Yeah.
You might say to me, Paul,
right.
Whatever. And he's like, look, idiots.
I know what you guys say. Say
and he has to shut them down.
He writes really strong, but when he's here, he's real wimpy. Yeah, he was all those kinds of things.
Yeah. Is that what he said? Wimpy? Is that that's from the Greek?
It's wimpeo in the Greek. But
oh my gosh.
Hey, so it's cold.
Yes.
And I'm in my winter uniform.
The fingerless gloves.
I got the fingerless gloves.
Back. You look like an idiot.
But I'm working this keyboard over here with no problem.
You've got a weird, the beanie is pulled down almost over your eyes.
It's because
like Mushmouth from the Fat Albert Show.
The front of my head gets cold too.
That reference dated us. I apologize.
But this particular beanie, there's a story behind it.
Oh boy!
And I do have permission to tell this story.
Do you have a beanie story?
I have a beanie story. So this is a North Face.
You have permission to tell it.
Well, you'll know why. This is a North Face beanie, and I usually have one every year.
Yeah. And
I usually lose it after winter. And I don't have it, and I go back in Amazon.
Because you get in somewhere, you set it on the table, whatever it is.
Yeah, I reorder it, So I don't have one this year. And like, literally, we're coming home from Christmas in Crossville, as they call it.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Special on
it's where you want to be.
Beautiful Christmas in Crossville. And so we stop at the Starbucks, and we pull up, and there's a beanie laying on the ground.
Yeah.
like right in the parking lot that someone has left. And my wife, now this is what's crazy.
Yeah.
Johnny, she picks it up.
Wow.
That this sounds like something I would do.
Yeah. A perfectly good beanie.
And so we have like this whole conversation.
I mean, sure, it's riddled with lice, but
it was
other than that, perfectly great.
It had been run over by a car.
Oh, man.
You know, the whole deal. And like we had this hilarious sort of interaction. I'm like, who are you? Like we've traded roles now. Like if I stopped and did this. And
we have beanie money now.
Is
that what you would say, John, to her? You'd say, I think we're doing okay.
We're doing pretty good.
We got beanie money.
We got $30. And so like.
How many? You're buying a $30 beanie now?
This North Face. And if you want one of those South Faces or West Faces, those are like
different.
20.
That's different.
But anyway.
It's just a North Face, but it's turned 40 degrees.
And so she insisted, like it's been a whole thing. And I'm wearing it right now.
Wait a minute. Hold on. You're wearing a parking lot beanie?
I'm wearing it. And
did you launder this beanie?
Of course. She took it home. She washed it.
Did you check it for?
For what? It's been washed and sanitized.
But I mean, it might have microscopic little bugs or something.
Sanitized. What do you not understand? Like,
what do you mean? Like you dunked it in water?
It's like saying you can't use...
You think these lice can't swim?
This means like you can't use a glass or a plate at a restaurant because someone else used it. They wash it.
If that plate was run over in the parking lot...
That's a little different. But John, I just was like, honey, I have to tell the world because this is not... This feels...
Do you need some help? Just be honest with me right now. Do I need to loan you some money?
Johnny... We'll wait till off
Are y'all
the air.
in trouble? You wait till we're off the air.
I just think...
Guys, if you'd want to become a patron of the show at this point, this is a good time to bring this up. Where would they go, John?
They'd go to talkaboutthatpodcast.com.
Click on the upper right hand. That's how you support the show. We love our supporters and our patrons. That's how you get ad-free content, and we'd love to have you. Send us a message to it. Hello at talkaboutthatpodcast.com. Send John a beanie, because evidently... He's in trouble.
I have a feeling that this beanie, because it has such a storied history now in our family,
you won't lose it.
I won't lose it.
Yeah,
this will be the one.
Yeah,
every year. And but I love my wife. This was just so funny. And at first, I was like, I got to talk about this in the podcast. She was like, no, don't. And finally yesterday, she goes, all right, you can do it. It's fine.
I don't understand why she would be. You got because
she thinks
she pointed it out.
I'm going to make fun of her for picking up a parking lot beanie in a Starbucks.
I think that's just she needs to understand that's part of the thing. Like when your husband has a podcast, you're every now and again going to be fodder for the podcast. And if you say or do something a little bit weird or dumb,
I think I generally tell good stories about Laura.
I think generally it's insane. I think people think she floats on a cloud and walks on water.
No,
she won't say anything.
She can hop on water.
Okay, fine.
Doesn't walk. But
she also is a garbage person that wants you to wear clothing that she pulled out of a dumpster. No offense, Laura.
It was just so funny to me.
Yeah, that is odd for a woman to be like, hey, perfectly good beanie.
Yeah, I was like...
It's like she's going to go find you a porch couch now.
She used to
you know what I'm saying? To put on the... Look at this couch. Can you believe?
She used to laugh.
This one cushion looks like it was on fire, but other than that...
She said growing up, her dad, like, you know, I could see my dad doing this too. Like if there was a perfectly good, like,
that's strap, right. It's a dad move.
Like a tie-down strap left on the side of the road where someone stopped and he'll stop and pick it up, you know?
Yep.
I was like, you have never been more like your dad than you are right now. And she laughed pretty hard at that.
That's what it is. It's not even a man or female. It's an old person thing of like, man, this is this generation's so wasteful. They walked away from this beanie.
I'm not going to lie, though.
And it's a found thing.
Like, it actually is lined on the inside. I don't think my old ones were. Yeah. I think that she knew this was better somehow.
It's like that old story. Roy used to tell this story, and I'm sure it's just a street joke, but he would tell it like it happened to them. And it was that his dad, they were in the carnival. Our children's pastor, former children's pastor, Roy Stone, was in the carnival with his dad. His dad was one of those like midway games huckster kind of guys.
Right.
You know. And so, you know, his sister was the snake girl, and she would put on the gorilla costume and shake the bars, and it was all the crazy, I mean, all the things, all the stories.
Yep.
And so they would get into these hijinks. They pick up hitchhikers all the time, and Roy told me they picked up a hitchhiker one time, and the guy had one shoe. And so they just picked him up, like pick him up, whatever. And they get about 5 miles down the road, and Roy said his dad finally couldn't take it anymore, and he goes, I'm sorry, I got to ask. Did you lose your shoe? And the guy goes, nope, found one. I just think, that's what happened. You're the beanie guy. You're like, wait till I tell you about this magic beanie.
No, it's the magic beanie.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a It's beautiful. It's really a great story. I like how you called it the one a few minutes ago. You were like, no, this beanie may be the one. Like it's the chosen hat.
For bald people, that's a thing.
That's true. Okay.
It's like, yeah, my head's cold all the time.
Oh, so you don't ever develop like a resistance to?
No.
I figured it just feels cold all the time.
All the time. Yeah.
Man, that's a bummer.
Like at night, like if I sit in the bed, like I have to put a hoodie on.
Yeah.
In the summer, like all the time.
Right.
So
I'm so glad I have a head of lustrous hair.
it's really not fair. It's really not fair because I have a lot of friends with just great hair, and I don't understand. What did I do wrong? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I can't write books.
No. You probably could, actually. You're probably better at it.
Well, just a few keywords into chat.
Now that you have AI, you're like,
I know what's going on.
I don't want to tell the world because I don't want them to go try. But I think the world could do my job now.
Oh, no.
But I'm not sure. I mean, they won't know what they're missing. It'll just sound okay. Would it be as good? Probably.
You know what would be good, John?
What's that?
A word from a few of our fine sponsors. We got to keep these lights on, so let's take a break.
And we're back, Johnny.
You told me that you saw the new Wicked movie.
I did.
And so good luck making heaven. But I had a thought today about, because I thought about it today because Curry and I are we have to leave for the road tomorrow. We've been on and off the road, and it's been kind of a crazy season, which is great, and I'm very grateful for it. But also, when we're home together now because Curry travels with me.
Right.
So today would be a day where we'll finish the podcast, and I'll have like 7 or 8 hours to like go catch up on things, get packed. But also, normally we would go to the movies, but I've not been to the movies.
Dude.
In so long because there's not been any great like things. I know Wicked's out now. I want to go see it, but Curry saw it without me, so never mind. But I will say this. I had a thought today. I was like, why don't we go to the movies anymore? And people blame I think there's a shift in culture. People blame the pandemic because that's when it really officially got killed off, right? Because people were like more homebound and streaming just really took over, all that. And people do like the comfort of their own living rooms, and I'll give you that. But I think the shift is because of attention spans is the main thing. Attention spans, and we're spoiled because we can just pause it and bathroom breaks. So I think what's happening is, because we've made that joke before, how you don't want to invest in a 3-hour Kevin Costner epic movie about the Old West, but you'll watch like 12 episodes in a row of The Office.
Isn't it crazy?
The Office. You'll sit in your room and watch The Office, and you just go, and you look up and you go, it's been 4 hours.
Yeah.
We could have watched Wyatt Earp.
Yeah.
So what I think needs to happen is television needs to become, or movies need to become more episodic. So when you go to the movie, you already know that it's going to be broken up into 5 parts with a bathroom break in each part.
Huh.
And so you go, hey, that was part 1 of the movie. And you go to the bathroom.
Do you have a
come
commercial?
back. I don't know. You have the option, I guess, to put a commercial there, but knowing that people are going to go like into the lobby.
Interesting.
And you would sell more snacks because now they know they're not missing anything.
Yeah.
Because we talked about building in like some kind of technology where they can carry their phone and the movie keeps streaming.
I think I called that the live stream.
Live streaming.
While you're,
So, but I like the idea of instead of, in other words, we could just get mad at it like we talked about preachers earlier. They get mad at consumer culture and say like, oh, these people don't even care about the Lord anymore. It's like, no, it's just that culture shifts and whatever. And you can either like go just get mad at everybody and be like, people don't even love the Lord anymore. They won't come to a Sunday night service. We're going to keep doing it. You can go, or you can just be like, we're going to do 2 Sunday mornings. We're going to do our thing. We're going to like try to catch people on Saturday night. We're going to widen the net. We're going to figure out how to get meet people where they are. Okay, you can do that.
Right, compromise.
Right. So what I think needs to happen with movies is instead of being like, God, people's attention spans, they don't want to sit down for a 2-hour movie anymore. Just forget them. Like, no, let's figure out what do they want to do. Now, it could go too far where you're just like, it's just a TikTok scroll of 8-second
you're
movies.
Literally just going to the movies to do what you could do at home. That's the thing. If you do it too much, but the screen's bigger regardless.
You have to tell me that I can't get this on Netflix in a month. Like it's never coming to Netflix. So if you don't go see the new Mark Wahlberg, whatever, that's cut into 5 pieces.
Well, that's so crazy. Like with Wicked, it's in the theater, and you can also get it on Amazon.
Right?
Prime.
They knew like this is the audience, and we're gonna have to do this. Plus, people want to sing along at home. That's part of it with Wicked. It's a little bit different. People go to the movies and they can't be their full selves. Because they've memorized all these songs now, and they want to just belt them out. And people have to put flyers up. I've seen these theaters. We walked by a theater the other day, and it had signs that, we know you love Wicked. we love that you love Wicked. Please don't sing out in the movie, and we want other people to enjoy this. And you're like, wow, they wrote that sign for a reason.
What did I go to? Oh, I know what I went to. Yeah, I think you were supposed to sing along, possibly. We went to the Taylor Swift documentary that was in the theaters.
Oh, it was a sing-along kind of a thing with a bouncing ball?
But I remember, like, it was only us and, like, 2 other people because it had been out a long time in the whole theater.
Taylor Swift is struggling.
And nobody, she's really, and nobody was singing. And it was interesting to me. I think that they intended, because there was, like, videos online, a bunch of people, the whole theater singing the song or as if they're at the concert.
Right.
But that was not our theater experience. But I mean, I still sang really, really
It's
loud.
weird because when you go to the movies, I used to like going knowing there'd be a theater full of people. And now when I go, I hope that it's empty.
Yeah.
Because I want the experience of being in my own little man cave.
Yeah.
But I want to experience the big screen movie experience. But really the movie experience includes other people. It's almost like, again, it's a broader cultural thing about collectivism versus individualism. Like, we don't like experiencing things as a group necessarily anymore. Now, I will say live music is pretty great with a big group, and it is different. Like, if I do a comedy show and it seats 150 people and there's 30 people there, it's a bummer in a way that a movie would not be a bummer.
Right.
Because nothing draws a crowd like a crowd, and people look around and they see only 30 people and they go, well, is this going to be any good?
Yeah.
Versus if you go to a movie and you go, well, look, the movie's going to be what it is.
Yeah.
You know.
Right, because you're experiencing it individually.
But I did a show in Lowell, Arkansas, and the last 2 shows, Friday and Saturday, were both sold out, and it was a lot of fun. And they were packed in there, and there's an energy that when you walk out, it just feels like a party in a different way for comedy. So live entertainment, that's still there. It's happening, and so
It is. I mean, yeah. I'm trying to think of what other.
But some things you want to go and you go, I hope nobody else is.
Yeah.
I hope when we go to this restaurant, it's easy to get a table, and I hope it's empty. And I hope the food's great, like a great restaurant would be, that would be full.
Right.
But I hope we caught them on a night where it's empty.
I think in the movies, the one thing I don't want, I can handle more people. I just don't want to have to stand up when they have to go to the bathroom. I don't want.
Wait a minute. You want to. Oh, okay.
To let them out of the aisle.
I thought you meant you don't want to stand up when you have to go. I was like, wait a minute, John. I just want to sit there and go in my seat, and then just be part of the theater experience.
I don't understand why do they keep kicking me out?
What I want is a theater full of toilets. And if we could somehow, and I think that's where it's headed, John.
I think it is, Johnny.
That's the grossest theater I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Hey, it's about that time, Johnny.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, a little segment is my quote of the week. We call it, They Talked About That. I don't speak French.
Okay.
But I'm assuming this is Michel de Montaigne.
Montague?
No, it's Montaigne.
Oh, Montaigne.
Montaigne, possibly.
Yeah.
1580 would be when he was born. Yeah. This is great. This is great for New Year's, I think. He who fears he shall suffer already suffers what he fears.
That's good.
Yeah.
And, there's a similar quote like that from Corrie ten Boom that's something about worry doesn't rob tomorrow of its sorrow, it robs today of its strength.
Yeah.
So she totally ripped off this Montaigne guy.
I'm not even sure that's really hers either.
Oh, okay.
I feel like that I have that from earlier.
But yeah, it's a similar thought. It's good. It's the idea of we do, and it's interesting that somebody in the 1580s would be writing about what essentially is anxiety. Because we think of, I think this is the most anxious generation that we've ever had in America, for sure.
Yeah.
And social media, the very online nature, the immediacy, the access to everyone's opinions and problems that we didn't. But it's interesting to think, because I guess I idealize the distant past as some culture that they had stuff, and they had, they had the Dark Ages, and they had
Scarlet Fever.
Right.
Right.
But it was like a very specific, common thing.
Well, yeah, it's human, right? I mean, and you can, I think that's one thing I want to read history that really helps, because there is a modern bias that can get reversed, like you said, into a historical bias. in that you believe everything that we make today is better, but you believe people were better or didn't struggle with what we struggled with in the past. That's sort of the make whatever this is like it used to be again kind of idea.
Yeah, I wonder why we do that. There's got to be something that's self-protective into why we do that.
Yeah, I think it's because
it's very natural.
You know, we used to take kids on youth group trips, and all these difficult things would happen, and just give it about 6 weeks afterwards, and their memories are only of the good things generally.
Yeah,
it's they are,
or even the bad thing is now this adventure that we had. And then we got a flat, and I couldn't believe so and so didn't get hit by the passing car.
But sometimes the kids' attitudes were awful when it was happening.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think I see that as a dad. So I do think some people, they only remember the negative, right? But most of us, as life gets ahead, I think maybe it's some sort of part of our chemistry.
Yeah.
Our brain says, I'm only going to store here, unless it's trauma or whatever. But if it's just like an experience, I'm going to store what was most positive.
Yeah, it's just weird, though, like to go through. I think it can be good. Like you said, it's self-protective, and that's a good thing where we go like, I'm going to remember this fondly. Even the bad stuff, even being broke. Like I see comedians all the time. They talk about how broke we were as kids. My dad didn't blah, blah, blah. And there's funny anecdotes, and people can relate to it. But nobody wants to be poor as a kid.
Right.
There's some protective thing that your brain does that goes, yeah, we didn't have much, but with the stuff we did have, we appreciated it. Or we're better than those rich people that are spoiled and they don't even appreciate the stuff they have. Or whatever it is. You're kind of making yourself superior in a way by doing that. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it, but it is fascinating to me why we do it and how your brain works. Like the idealized mythical past thing that we do.
It's interesting because when you said that, it's another quote. Tim Keller was quoting Proust when he said, he's talking about wisdom, but he says, it can only be discovered, quote, after a journey through the wilderness which no one can make for us and which no one can spare us. So I do think the reason we look back is people see what's good at it now because they've been through the wilderness and they're on the other side.
Yeah.
So when a person who grew up in poverty now has enough, the poverty no longer has control over them.
Yeah.
They don't have to be afraid of it anymore. So now they can look at it and go, oh, one, there's the benefit of grit and coming through, and I survived, that you can now see what's positive about it, removing the negative. And I think worry is one of those, it is a universal thing, there's no doubt. Because if you think about how much Scripture says, it talks in the ancient times about not being anxious for anything, right? Mm-hmm. How many times, I just talked about this a lot during Advent, every time there was an angelic messenger to someone, the first words out of his mouth is, don't be afraid, right? Yeah. So there's a fear thing that's constant. But I think this idea that when I am worrying about something, I am already, this is maybe the most profound way I've heard it said in a long time. I'm already suffering from what I fear. Yeah. Like I'm already suffering that thing, and it hasn't happened. And
in advance.
Yeah, I'm a perennial worrier. Like I'm built. I'm Enneagram 6, right? So anxiety and anxiousness is kind of a thing. That's.
I think it's one thing to be a perennial worrier like we are. It's another thing to, again, the defense of the worry is, I'm doing it better than the people who aren't worried. If you're not worried, what's wrong with you? That's the thing that we think that other people don't necessarily think is like, aren't you guys seeing that the world's on fire?
Yeah, I know.
And so it's almost like an arrogance built into the worry.
So funny enough, my wife the other day said something. Parenthood makes us both like the other more. It's really crazy.
Yeah.
She's naturally more, she feels first, she's in a heart triad. I'm in a mind triad. And
these are cults, John.
Although as a dad, I feel kind of what she feels like.
Yeah.
I feel this pain if my kid, for my kid. It's not intellectual. Like I feel this thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this must be what it feels like to feel like you sometimes. And she thinks through a lot of the worries that she wouldn't normally do. But again, your kid seems to bring out these things. The other day, she said something the other day, and I was like, man, you're being an amateur right now with your forecasting of disaster. Because what she forecasted was like some extreme disaster. I was like, Okay, first of all, leave the worrying to the professionals.
Yeah.
Like those of us who think all the time about what's going to go wrong, we would never go that far.
Right.
Because that's not even reasonable, logical, rational. Like we think within a rational place. And but I was laughing because I was saying I worry better than you.
Yeah.
Like I know that I do, and you feel better than I do. I worry better than you do. But it's just a. I don't know,
She's
man.
better at picking out hats, though. I will give her that.
I see this. It's one thing I learned from 12 steps here. And I know if someone's doing the bingo card, I've hit a lot of them so far, Enneagram and 12 steps. But something that really, really got me is sobriety happens 24 hours at a time. Mm-hmm. And sobriety, one of the things I am in recovery from is anxiousness and fear and worry. And the goal would be, you're not going to spend like there was another quote we read last year. I think I didn't use it this year about a guy saying, I really don't live according to a year-long resolution, but more just a daily resolution. Like I make resolutions for today, not for the year.
Yeah.
Because you're not gonna do it. Like it's not gonna work.
I want to do daily resolutions, but I want it to be every day to lose 50 pounds. I want within a week I won't be here, John.
Well, again, daily resolutions put on top of each other, right?
Yeah.
Make a long-term goal. So that idea of I would love to be sober from worry today so that I don't suffer what I fear. And I think, Johnny, the easiest way, because just tell someone, don't worry. Like it's offensive. It's offensive when I'm really in my headspace.
Shout out to Bobby McFerrin. Turns out John's super offended by you. How could you just walk in here and whistle
don't
and
worry.
say, don't worry,
Be
comma,
happy.
be happy.
Jeez, I'm sick
Get
of
out
it.
of here. Get some instruments, you loser. Mouth noise making. Okay.
I think that this telling someone doesn't do it. You have to do something. You can't
Right.
just not do something.
What's the
right?
proactive step?
I think it's gratitude.
Okay.
I think if you can find what it is in your life that's already good, so if humanity has a suffering, to use
Yeah.
this quote, I mean, humanity also has beauty. I think it was Keller who said in that same book, he was like, look, the world is both beautiful and terrible. And like when you understand that, you live in wisdom. When you don't just expect it to only be terrible or expect it to only be beautiful, but be okay with the tension of the two, right? That you're living in between. But
That's
you have to find what is beautiful, and that's what to be grateful for. So gratitude being this action you take to really pay attention and not just count your blessings. I mean, it's okay if that's the words you want to use for it. But those of us who grew up in the faith, that kind of just rings hollow like a platitude. I'm not just counting. I want to be intentional about what makes my life full and complete today that God has given in my relationship with Him, and then the blessings that flow down from it to others. And I think being grateful for that will hopefully replace worry. Because remember when Jesus said, this seems dark, when He cast out a demon one time, He said, when this happens, it's like that demon goes to the wilderness, and then it's like this home, this mind, this person is like swept and clean. But if something doesn't come and occupy, then that will come back and bring worse things with it. So we're not made to be empty. We're made to be occupied by something, right? So I think that's the same thing. You can't just get rid of worry. Something else has to sit in its seat.
To push it out with gratitude.
Yeah.
You have to give worry the eviction notice by being thankful and grateful.
Right. And let something else live there. So when worry comes back, there's no room for it.
I think we solved it.
Yeah, there you go, guys. I'm not going to worry at all this year.
I'm going to go ahead and...
John, I'm already worried about that.
I'm worried about your claims. Void in Tennessee.
There you go.
No, it's a good one, though. I think, I think that's if I don't really do resolutions anymore, but if there's one, I do think I really have tried in my career when I started this, because we did the band thing, and it felt like we were so wrapped up in making it or whatever that meant, that we would just live in these weird highs and lows, a roller coaster of somebody's going to discover us and all that. And when I started doing comedy, it felt like I just discovered this weird gift that I did not expect at all. And I was always so surprised by it. And I wanted to maintain that surprise and not have an expectation of what it could be. And so I made up my mind I would always kind of like stop and appreciate these moments that I was given, because they're just total gifts along the way. And not expect everything to be this like, this will mean I'm a real boy now.
Right.
If I can have this moment. And I think I've kept that promise for the most part. That's not to say I've never been envious of another comedian or I've never wanted something I didn't get or been mad. That has happened. But generally, compared to my music stuff,
yeah, I agree.
It's been a lot different. My attitude has been one of more gratitude and more like, can you believe this happened?
Yeah.
Even if it's like a weekend of shows at the Chuckle Hut in Boise, you're just still like, yeah, but I got to go do that. I wasn't, somewhere else in a cubicle doing a job that I didn't want.
Well, there's some of that, like I said, comes with adulthood, I think, and maturity. It doesn't have to. You can get chronologically older and not more mature emotionally. That's very possible. But someone who's worked at Home Depot, right? You go, oh, okay, I know that's a great job. Look what I get to do. How many people? And we talk about that all the time. You and I get to use. We somehow up to this point. It may not always be this way.
Right.
We get to use our brains.
Yeah.
Right.
In as much as they are.
Jokes
feeble
on
though
you
they
guys.
may be.
And that is, I think, to keep and get. My dad worked 3 jobs. He was a pastor. Same kind of thing. I never thought that would be my main job.
Yeah.
And I'm still surprised to this day.
And it's not that I don't feel like I work hard or don't deserve what I got. It's not that. It's who deserves anything, but it's that thing of like, there is a weird sense of it. Like when I go out and I tell the first joke to a crowd, and if it gets a laugh, it's not like I feel surprised, but I immediately feel relieved.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if they laughed at that, they'll probably laugh at this next thing. And then you just are off to the races. But like that feeling never really went away from me. I still have that same feeling.
That's
and so that's such a gift, and I try to stay grateful for it. And but again, I don't know. I think that's the closest thing to a resolution that I would say I make is like, I want to really appreciate this time, especially right now. Curry's traveling with me, and that's been so cool. And I know that it won't be this way forever. It's a season that we're in. And so I really am, that's pretty cool that I don't have to be like, hey, sorry, I'll see you in 4 days, like I had been doing for years, where I'm gone. And then it's just like, I have to come home and tell her, like, what did you do? And she'll tell me about her job, and I'll be like, oh, I did this. And they're totally, like, you have to kind of catch up. It's just a weird, we don't really have to do that now. We're in this season right now where we're going to Shreveport, but we're going together. So Shreveport may not be whatever, but we're going to be together in the airport in Shreveport.
The airport in Shreveport. Come on now.
That's, of course, where they ship all the Shreves. I don't know if you knew anything about Shreveport, but every day they come running down to the Shreve docks.
I'm telling you.
And it is, the Shreve boats are coming in, and they do a dance. It's amazing.
It's
really, honestly.
Yeah. I think I said that Sunday, like, hey, most important thing right now I'm feeling is know yourself and know your season.
Yeah.
If you expect the self you are in a different season to experience everything as you did, you'll be constantly disappointed or putting something else on. Like, hey, so if you can know yourself and know your season, then you can actually enjoy life. But if not, you'll always be comparing to a season you think you should be or one that you were in, and you won't know yourself. So I love that you're enjoying that with your wife. While it's happening.
I think it's a great advice. Don't wait to be like, you can't. There is a happiness you can just choose. There really is. Yeah. Look on something that is good. I always feel a little bit weird about it because that part of me goes, well, all I'm doing is looking away from the bad things that are happening. There's wildfires in LA right now.
Yep.
So if I pretend to focus on the good thing, aren't I ignoring the wildfires? There's that part of me that always is going to do that.
But that's the assumption, though. The assumption there is that the negative things are more true than the positive.
Yeah.
I found that assumption in life and in people, and that's hit me in the last year. We act as if what's negative, because it hits us harder.
Right. It feels more powerful.
It feels more powerful or more true, but it's not. It might affect your life more, but it's not more true.
Yeah.
To see what's real and true that's positive is not more real and true than what's negative. Yeah.
I think we fixed it,
John. Yeah, we really did. We did a lot today.
Wow, this is great. Let's go back and do my segment. Johnny's old jokes. We call it Joke About That. Johnny got a couple street jokes that I found. Again, I didn't write these. I don't know why I need to preface this.
Please don't hold Johnny responsible.
Three guys are newbies in Metro Police, and they're passing their first test. Their commander-in-chief shows a pic of a scumbag and says the following: "Is there any feature in this guy's face if you were looking for a criminal suspect?" And then one says, he's got just one eye. And Like, stupid, it's a profile pic. Can't you see that? He's got just one ear, said the second guy. Are you kidding me? I told you, idiots. That's a profile pic, left profile to be exact. He's using contact lenses, sir, said the third guy. Brilliant. How did you come to that conclusion with just a profile pic? How the heck could he keep his glasses in place with just one eye and one ear? Okay, that's stupid. John, a rich playboy, had so many girlfriends that he hadn't enough time to entertain them all, so he made a research lab an offer they couldn't refuse and got them to clone him. This is very timely.
Oh, wow.
However, the cloning technique hadn't been perfected, causing his double to suffer from Tourette's syndrome. And the clone's foul language caused the girlfriends to run away. Eventually, the playboy decided something had to be done, so he took him to a remote part of the Grand Canyon, pushed him over a cliff. He thought he'd gotten away with it, but shortly after, the police arrested him for making an obscene clone fall.
Well, I did not expect, was that going to be a wordplay or a pun?
Yeah,
I don't know which one it is.
John, finally, a dumb man, went ice fishing. He'd seen many books on the subject, and finally, after getting all the necessary tools together, he made for the nearest frozen lake. After positioning his comfy stool, he started to make a circular cut in the ice. Suddenly, from the sky, a voice boomed, "There are no fish under the ice." The dumb man, now quite worried, moved way down to the opposite end of the ice, swigged down another beer, and tried to cut his hole again. The voice came down once more, "There are no fish under the ice." He stopped, looked skyward, and said, "Is that you, Lord?" The voice replied, "No, I'm the ice rink manager." John, let's do This Week in History. We call it Talk About Then. John, this week, 2012.
They give me time to keep laughing.
This week, 2012. You were done. This week, 2012. I didn't know about this. Was called the John 3:16 game. Do you know about this? Do you remember the Tim Tebow game where they inexplicably beat the Pittsburgh Steelers? It was the season Tim Tebow had all these fourth quarter comebacks.
Well, in the playoffs, right?
In the playoffs. So he got to them to a playoff game, this Denver team that was kind of hapless. Tebow willed them into the playoffs, and then they beat the Steelers and then got hammered by the Pats the next week. But that game was known as the John 3:16 game, and I did not know that was a thing. But the reason is because Heisman Trophy winner Tim Tebow was quarterbacking for the Denver Broncos against the Pittsburgh Steelers during the NFL playoffs. He had worn John 3:16 on his eye paint in a college playoff game exactly 3 years earlier. Tebow's passing yards were 316. Tebow's yards per completion, 31.6. Yards per rush, 3.16. The only interception of the game was against the Steelers on 3rd and 16. Steelers' time of possession was 31 minutes, 6 seconds. The Nielsen ratings for the game peaked at 31.6. The Broncos lost their previous 3 games by an average of 16 points. I don't know. That last one was a little bit, that's a stretch. But that's a little bit weird. A couple of presidential ones, John. This week, 1992, George Bush vomited on the prime minister. Do you remember this? U.S. President George Bush vomits in the lap of the Japanese prime minister and collapses to the floor. Bush had ignored a physician's warning to stay in bed. So I guess he was a summit kind of a thing. And he's like, will through it, make yourself go. He had some bad clams and whammo, whatever. That's a weird...
Clammo.
Well, clammo. That's a weird thing to have happen at maybe that's... I don't even know what that means to the Japanese prime minister. You could mean a whole thing. Vomiting in the lap, that could... You don't know.
Maybe that's...
Maybe it's a compliment?
Yeah. It's like
I don't know. We don't know anything about Japanese culture, and I apologize to our Japanese listeners. I think vomiting in somebody's lap is bad no matter where you live.
I think it's bad universally.
That's pretty... Yeah. Like, oh, heavens be! The prophecy's been fulfilled. John, this week, 2007... a universal device was a landmark device was unveiled. Do you remember this?
iPhone?
The iPhone. The first iPhone is unveiled to the public by Steve Jobs at the Macworld Convention in San Francisco. It would go on sale in June and retail for, do you want to guess the original retail price of $2,007?
Is that... You're asking me if I want to guess
I want you
that?
to guess the retail price of the iPhone in 2007 in that.
You just said $2,007. Oh.
And in 2000,
I was like, Johnny, you just told me.
2000,
surely it wasn't
2007. I want you to... No, it didn't cost $2,007.
I think it was like $700.
It was between $499 and $599.
Okay.
But again, that
seems a lot.
Easily $1,000 now.
Yeah.
$2,007. Some might ask. Okay, another presidential one that is odd because that was Bush Sr. that threw up in the lap. Did you know that I did not know this story. George W. passed out this week, 2002, after choking on a pretzel while watching a football game. Did you know this?
No.
They called this story Bush versus Pretzel. After fainting, the president tumbled to the floor from a couch, bruising his lower lip and suffering an abrasion the size of a $50 on his left cheek. So I guess they had to kind of...
How did they get the... I mean, you don't just pass out, you die if they don't get the pretzel out.
Well, I guess they figured it out and they Heimlicked him, maybe? I don't know. Maybe
the pretzel dissolved.
Are you saying George W. didn't make it and they
What
put
if
in
he's
a
a-
weird dummy
he's a clone?
ringer?
Okay.
Anyway, John, this week, 1920, the New York Times editorial mocked Robert Goddard, stating that rockets will never fly in space and saying that, quote, he only seems to lack the knowledge ladled out daily in high schools. Goddard's response was, every vision is a joke until the first man accomplishes it. Once realized, it becomes commonplace. They issued an apology in 1969 after the Apollo 11 flight to the moon. One might say they had to apologize. That's what it says in the little...
Come on.
Hey, unfortunately, Goddard had died in 1945. So this
Okay,
was
a little late for that.
posthumous apology.
Yeah, come on,
Hey,
guys.
sorry about saying you were an idiot.
I hope you didn't.
Now that we landed on the moon,
hope you didn't
our
die
bad.
bitter. It's, yeah.
John, finally, I don't know if you knew this story because you're an American history guy, and you're kind of a flag guy because
Oh,
of the whole
that's-
Old Glory connection.
Yeah.
With Captain William Driver. Listen to earlier episodes if you want to know the history of that. They're boring. But this week, 1794, 2 stars and stripes were added, making 15 stars and stripes because of Kentucky and Vermont. Did you know this? The practice of adding a stripe for each new state entering the Union was eventually deemed impractical. And the Flag Act of 1818 specified that a flag of 13 stripes, one for each original colony, and 20 stars, one for each state currently in the Union, with new stars to be added as new states in the Union. So they weren't just adding stars, they were adding a stripe per state.
I did not know
then they
that.
thought, well, this is going to look like a pinstripe suit if we just keep going.
Right.
It's going to be a
You
weird...
won't be able to tell what it is.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they started out with a different idea of like, well, look, we added and these states were like, hey, where's our stripe?
Yeah.
And they're like, look, you'll get a star, calm down.
Right. But you're not going to get a stripe now.
So the Flag Act of 1818. But
Well, there
this
you go.
happened in 1794 that Kentucky and Vermont was like, we did it. We're on the...
Wow.
And then they were promptly removed.
Yeah, there should be some sort of retribution for that.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Kentucky, Vermont, if you think you're entitled to compensation,
Call
call now.
go to talkaboutthatpodcast.com.
That's right, where you can find over 300 archived episodes. Almost none of them talk about Kentucky and Vermont, but we do love our listeners there, and thanks so much for being a part of the show. By the way, send us a message. We love hearing from our listeners. We heard from several listeners. You know, I've been seeing podcast listeners at shows, at comedy shows, John, in the real world, and some of them want to know why you're not at my shows. I think they think we hang out in real life like Pat Morita and Ralph Macchio from Karate Kid. They always said, like, how's the other? They thought that in real life. But John and I are bitter.
Yeah, this is
enemies.
these are just characters.
This is a professional relationship.
Yeah.
That makes us almost no money, and yet we sustain it, we maintain it.
I think almost is a stretch. I think it loses us money.
No, come on, we love it.
Oh, it's
but
fine.
listen to this, John. People come to me and they say, "Where's John?" Or they say, like, "Oh, they've read your books. They're very
What?
excited."
No, they have not.
They have.
Okay.
They bought them in the discount bin of
Sure.
Their local McKay's, but
Whatever works.
that's just as good. No, you got nothing from that purchase, but no, people are excited, and it's cool to see people that. That's the thing about online stuff. Like, we rail against it in some ways, but the only thing I like about online is when it connects to the real world.
Yeah.
Like, if you have an online experience that you wouldn't have otherwise had, like, I never would have met person X in the 1950s.
Yeah.
But I've established a relationship. They saw a clip and then followed up. And now, in real life, they come to a show and they brought their family or whatever. Now it's like, oh, I get why this is better. And that's why I don't like that whole, we talked about looking back and imagining only the bad things about the world's going, it's on fire. There's so much good, but I like when you see those moments of technology turning into a living, breathing interaction.
Yeah.
That's what does it for me. When it just stays digital, I don't necessarily
agree.
love it as much because it feels like people can hide behind their keyboard and say mean things. I only like when they hide behind their keyboard and say nice things.
That's right.
Because those people know what's up.
They get it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. They're the right kind of people.
The other people are just trolls.
And speaking of, you should go to our podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave a review.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's how people find the show. Go to JonnieW.com. You can find new tour dates. They're going up every day. We're adding cities. And 2025 is already looking great, and I can't wait to see you out there all across the fruited plain.
It's going to be great, guys. Hey, stay warm out there. We know it's cold, and we wish you a happy new year. And we look forward to doing this all year, and we'll start again next week here on
Talk About That.